Listen weekday afternoons at 5:45 on KSJE. KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, here for you, providing safe, quality care. Stay informed on the COVID-19 developments to protect yourself and your loved ones at sanjuanregional.com or the COVID-19 information line at 505-516-0938 or 888-949-5387. San Juan Regional Medical Center, caring for the Four Corners since 1910. Ten minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Friday morning, March 27th. Good morning, everyone. I'm Scott Michlin. Thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the air here in San Juan County, 103.3 FM over the air in Durango, Colorado, and streaming everywhere from our website, KSJE.com. Special good morning also to our viewers who are joining us live on the KSJE YouTube channel and Facebook page. We're glad you're with us as well, everyone. Coming up this morning, we are talking about carbon capture. And my guests here in the studio from Enchant Energy and the Farmington Electric Utility. Hope you'll stay tuned to hear this important conversation coming up in the next few moments right here on KSJE. Next hour, Mick Hess will be here roving with the arts. And on Fridays, Mick plays a lot of music from Broadway. And today is no exception. Some music from Cabaret coming up this morning at 9 a.m. on KSJE. At noon today, it's our program produced with the Farmington Police Department, the Cop Shop with FPD. Farmington Police Chief Stephen Hebby will be here. Public Information Officer was Georgette Allen, but now it's Nicole Brown. Nicole will be here this afternoon, and they'll be talking a little bit about 911 and how important it is to keep some of those lines open for true emergencies. And so we'll be talking about that today at noon on the Cop Shop with FPD. Then at 12:30, it's our storytelling program produced in cooperation with the Farmington Public Library, Cuentos, Hana, and Tales. Great storytime program today live at 12:30. And of course, if you are home with the kids these days, as everyone is, you may be looking for more stories to share with your children. And we have a lot of podcasts on our website from Cuentos, Hana, and Tales. Just go to KSJE.com and check out all the podcasts that are available anytime, on demand, day or night. In addition to our Facebook and YouTube channels, we invite you to connect with us on Twitter and also check out KSJE on Instagram as well. Our forecast today, it's a little messy and cold. It's going to be windy and cold today with a mix of scattered showers and maybe some snow flurries. The high today, 47 in Farmington, 28 with some more scattered flurries overnight. Mostly sunny tomorrow, though, with a high of 49. It'll be 52 and mostly cloudy on Sunday. Mid-50s on Monday, lower 60s by Tuesday, and upper 60s next week, Wednesday and Thursday with partly sunny skies. And we always tell you that visual radio can take you places. So for those of you watching on Facebook and YouTube, we'll take you up to Durango, where there's already some light snow in the air this morning as we take a look at Main Avenue in Durango. Current temperature 31 degrees. They're expecting a mix of rain and snow as well today in La Plata County. The high today, 39 in Durango and 21 overnight. Well, let me introduce my guests who are here with me this morning to talk about this important topic of carbon capture and what it means for our community. Peter Mandelstam is here. He is the COO of Enchant Energy. Good morning.
Good to be with you, Scott.
Thank you for being here and coming in. Appreciate it very much. Also, Hank Adair is here. He is the director of the Farmington Electric Utility. And Hank, good morning to you.
Good morning, Scott. Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming in as well. It's great to have you both here and talking about this important conversation and topic about the future of the San Juan generating station. And that's really why we're here this morning. And so, Peter Mandelstam, let me start with you a little bit about Enchant Energy and what got you interested in working with the city of Farmington and San Juan Generating Station. Let's start there.
Absolutely, Scott. Enchant Energy is a company composed of a number of individuals who've been doing energy development for more than 30 years. I've been principally a renewables energy developer across the U.S., both solar, on-land wind, and offshore wind. And my two partners, Lawrence Heller and Jason Selch, met Hank and the good folks at the Farmington Utility, and they quickly came to a deal to save the San Juan plant, all the jobs, economic development, and we have a public-private partnership. I'm very proud to say that as a lifelong New Yorker, I moved to Farmington in October, and I live here, and so Hank is not just my business partner, but also my provider of electricity.
There you go.
It's great to be here.
Low-cost cost.
Exactly right, Hank.
Right. And some folks may say, Peter Manstam, after spending all these years in renewable energy, what got you over to now the coal side? Because that doesn't have a lot of fans these days.
Good point, Scott. I don't think of it as a coal plant. Yes, those black rocks come in the front end of the plant, but really what you need to look at is what comes out the back end. And what the San Juan station will provide is the cleanest and cheapest power in the region. It's going to be much cleaner than a combined cycle gas project. And
that's natural gas. That's a natural gas
yes.
plant, yes.
And as a guy who's done renewables, wind and solar for many decades, of course, I champion that, and we need to move to a renewables future, but we need a transitional technology. And what San Juan offers is the ability to keep the lights on. For all the projects I've done in wind and solar, they don't keep the lights on. So Hank understands this. He runs the Farmington utility. We need a technology like San Juan that will allow us to provide clean and inexpensive power, but also firm power, dispatchable power, power that keeps the lights on.
All right, let me turn to Hank Adair and ask him about those very things, because Hank Adair, you are charged, your mission at the Farmington Electric Utility would be then to provide reliable, constant power for your customers. And of course, the Farmington Electric Utility has customers throughout northwest New Mexico.
We do. We have, thank you, Scott. We have a service territory of 1,700 square miles and 45,000 meters and 35,000 customers within our utility. Each one doesn't turn their lights on or off at any specific time when the sun shines or when the wind blows. And so our balance is to keep that service and response. We actually have to keep it on a minute-by-minute basis with what we call area control. As the load goes up and down, we respond our loads to it or react to it. And so it's good to have a balanced portfolio.
And that's hard to do, I would think, with demands and things. I mean, if we've got a 100-degree day here and everyone wants to turn on their air conditioner, you have to ensure that we can do that and not have the lights go out or trip something somewhere. Is that the idea?
That's the idea. And what you call it is dispatchable and non-dispatchable. So non-dispatchable, you have no control over whether it can generate. Dispatchable allows you to turn it on and off when you would like to, and allows you, even with certain technologies, to ramp it. For example, we have hydro generation out of Navajo Dam. Our hydro generation is fixed on the water flow as we need it and what the flow is of the San Juan River, and it matches basically the endangered species and the needs of those targets. So that is not a true dispatchable resource. We don't turn it on or off. We don't adjust the flows in the river. That's where something like San Juan Generating Station is so important. You can ramp it up and down. You can turn it off or on where you need to. Our goal is to always keep it on and use the ability of the ramp rates or how you can change the load to react for what we need for our customers when we need it. A great benefit to have for us. We call it base load generation.
But the Farmington Electric Utility already has a natural gas power plant as part of your portfolio, correct? And so that would not change even if you get a cleaner San Juan Generating Station online here in the next few years.
That's correct. What I call our generation portfolio is about 50% gas. We have our flagship gas plant, the natural gas plant, which is here in Farmington. We also have an older gas plant as well. So we have two gas generating facilities. Then we have our hydro generation, and then San Juan. We are what's called naturally short, so in the peak summer months, we also buy from the market. So it's about 50% gas for our customers that we use, natural gas, about 22 to 24% from our coal or for San Juan plant, and then we have about 15% hydro, and then the rest we buy from the market.
And so help us through the steps that happen here after P&M announcing that they were going to close down that plant, abandon that plant, and go through all the steps that are now underway, right, with that taking place. Yeah. The city, Farmington Electric Utility, has always been a partner with that plan, and that's why the city has now had an option, I guess, to take it over and still maintains its, 5% stake?
That's correct. And so all the owners of San Juan Plant, and there were 9 owners a significant time ago, which then lowered to 5 owners once San Juan 2 and 3 retired. There are 4 units at San Juan Plant. 2 of the units, San Juan 2 and 3, retired. 1 and 4 remain in operation. Part of the agreement back in 2018 was those owners needed to decide in June of 2018 whether they wanted to continue operation per a kind of agreement we had. We call San Juan Plant a project. At that point in time, 4 of the owners decided that they did not want to continue operation in June. City of Farmington said whether we would like to. 1, we have the lowest rates in the region, and having that 25% of our generation come from San Juan is a good reason of why our rates are so low. The other is the jobs, frankly, and there's 400 direct jobs out there between the mine and the plant proper, and we calculate that to be a little bit over 1,500 jobs totally when you could include those indirect. So it's our community, and the humanist in me likes to know that those people that work out there are also our Little League baseball coaches and things like that. They support so much in our community. So that was a key piece, and we decided we wanted to continue on. The owners between June and November of 2018 had a chance to market the plant. So Farmington couldn't really market the plant until they had made their choices. Once November of 18, all the owners chose that they did not want to continue. Then all of the assets at San Juan plant would revert to the city of Farmington once agreements were made and completed with the other owners. That gave us a chance to market the plant. That's when we went out and we hired a firm out of D.C., Washington, D.C., to help us locate investors. We found Enchant, started our meetings in February, and if you look from February of 19 to 20, we have had some significant undertakings to get to where we're at. So,
well, yeah, it seems like it's come a little fast and furious with some of the developments that we've been hearing about with this
Yes.
proposal, and a lot of us have kind of taken a crash course of trying to understand the concept of carbon sequestration and carbon capture, and that's kind of what we are here talking about this morning. And so Peter Mandelstam, again, with this idea of carbon sequestration, retrofitting the San Juan generating station, it would generate power, but then some of the byproducts of that process would then be captured, and the idea would be to send some of it maybe through a pipeline, because that's useful, I guess, in the oil and gas fields. And if you can't do that, then maybe bury it and sequester it underground. Is that basically the simplistic
right,
way
Scott.
of looking at it?
No, that's correct, Scott. And Hank's and my public-private partnership, Farmington Enchant, our plan is to use the 45Q federal tax credits to make this project possible. We, Farmington Enchant, are not asking for a nickel of state money. As Hank said, we're going to provide, or rather maintain, the 1,500 direct and indirect jobs. We at Farmington Enchant are proud to continue to pay the $53 million in state and local taxes. We want to be a good neighbor in the community. I live here full-time now. And so the carbon capture technology is based on the so-called amine post-combustion technology. It's a technology that's well understood in the oil and gas field, and Hank and I are very proud that our partners in this effort are Mitsubishi, the global company, a company called Peter Kiewit, and an engineering firm called Sargent & Lundy. So as you said, Scott, we'll take the flue gases out of the combustion of the coal, and we'll strip it out of the waste stream so it doesn't go into the atmosphere, and we'll compress it, put it in a pipeline, send it to the Permian Basin, and we'll either do enhanced oil recovery or we'll directly bury it. And one of the things that we're excited about, Scott, is Hank and I and a bunch of other companies, including Hillcorp and Schlumberger, working with New Mexico Tech, are exploring putting these so-called sequestration wells right here in San Juan County. We'd like to directly bury it, and the federal tax credit allows a $50 per ton subsidy for doing that, as opposed to enhanced oil recovery at $35 a ton. So we're very excited, and we have optionality as to how we handle the carbon. But the goal is to produce very clean electricity where we're stripping 90% of the carbon out of the waste stream.
And so some of the things that I've heard from maybe some of the folks that are concerned about this project would be that the technology, this is a much larger scale plant than has ever been attempted before with this type of technology, but it is working in other places, correct? Not very many, but other places.
That's correct. And what Hank and I like to say is this is the leading edge and not the bleeding edge. This is an evolution, not a revolution. We're basing it on a technology done at a plant called Petronova. My old company, NRG, has built this project, and Hank and I selected the folks who built that project, Kiewit, Mitsubishi, and Sargent & Lundy. So what's nice about having a team, a world-class team like this, is they've already done that. So this is an evolution of what they've done.
And Hank Adair, this could be done on a larger scale, at least as far as you know, or hoping at San Juan?
It can, and I rely a lot based on my history. I spent 23 years at San Juan Plant operating it in various leadership roles. And also a mechanical engineer at heart, I know how this process can work and its scalability factor. So Petronova was done at a certain size and in modular basis. So the luxury is that you can just add modules and scale them up. So it's not like you have to totally scrap the old design and redo a new for this size. You just expand it based on that modular effect.
I see. And I would assume, though, with Mitsubishi as part of this, maybe some of the technology has improved since that plant was put online. Would that be fair to say, too?
I would say so. As we talk leading, not bleeding edge, I think you get the benefit of learning those processes and how the reaction works. A lot of people talk the 90% removal. Can it truly remove 90%? And the answer is yes. I think with the scalable factor that you can do, it's there where it's effective and can be done that way. So very pleased with what I've seen from Mitsubishi today.
Right.
Scott, if I can just amplify what Hank said, we, Farmington Enchant, were very honored that the independent national lab, Los Alamos, generally considered the most thoughtful and expert lab on carbon capture, did an independent assessment of what Hank and I are proposing. And all of these things are on our website, enchantenergy.com. But we did a report with Sargent and Lundy. We put it on our website. Then Los Alamos did an independent report. We've linked to that on our website. And as Hank said, this is an evolution. This is a leading edge, and we're quite confident based on the success at San Juan and the stripping of 90%, we can do likewise, but at a bigger scale.
I see. Interesting. Now, some other folks have talked a little bit about maybe the energy that would take to do this carbon sequestration and stripping out some of these things, and that doesn't leave a lot of extra energy left maybe for your customers, Hank Adair. Is that something that you've heard, and is that an accurate concern, or what do you think?
I frankly have heard that, and frankly, when I initially thought about carbon capture, because P&M looked at carbon capture back in 2010 or almost 9 years ago, I was like, okay, here we go with carbon capture. And so, but the answer is San Juan is such a unique site, and with the change in the 45Q tax credits, that it actually flips the whole model based on where we're at today. San Juan's so unique for where carbon capture can work from a financial or business standpoint is with San Juan 2 and 3 retired, there's a lot of equipment you can reuse or repurpose for the carbon capture process. And frankly, there's very few plants in the United States, and frankly, there's this one that has a CO2 line that is so close that can be used for the effective market of it. When you look at it from that point, from the business model now works. And what we've done, Peter and I, in our agreements is we've kind of separated the two entities. So don't look at it as San Juan plant in the future post-2022 as just San Juan. Call it GenCo, which is the plant that makes electricity, and CaptureCo is the plant that captures the CO2. Using this process, the carbon capture plant, or CaptureCo, has to stand on its own two legs, if you will. And so the business model is so good that it actually will pay for the steam and electricity that is used at San Juan plant or in GenCo. So don't look at it as parasitic load and a detriment. Look at it as the largest anchor customer for the new project. So it's actually a benefit.
I see. But if you're not putting that CO2 in the pipeline to maybe sell it downstream and just burying it, there's not a lot of revenue coming from that, or would that come from the tax credit? How would that work?
There's two ways. I'll let Peter answer that one.
Okay.
So as Hank said, this is, and I give the Farmington utility credit for realizing this was a great place to do carbon capture and to go out to the market and find Enchant. Really what's unique, as Hank said, about this project is there are three large sources of revenue. There's the 45Q tax credits. That's going to bring really more than $2 billion in federal subsidies to Farmington and to San Juan County. And in this age of coronavirus, Hank and I, of course, are glad that everyone is staying at home and staying safe and healthy. But in this era of coronavirus, we at Enchant and at Farmington feel a great civic duty to be focused on jobs and economic development. And we're going to preserve, as Hank said, the 1,500 jobs. We're going to continue to support the school district, which is heavily dependent upon our $53 million in tax revenue. And so the three buckets of revenue that Hank and I talk about are, first and foremost, the 45Q, billions of dollars in federal money that comes into our community. Secondly, the sale of the carbon. As we said, there's the possibility of doing enhanced oil recovery. And third, after we service Farmington and after we service the carbon capture island, we'll have 600 megawatts, about 4.4 million megawatt hours of electricity to sell throughout the region, even as far as California. And to amplify what Hank talked about, the mission of the Farmington utility, keeping the lights on, serving customers, we've seen a lot of renewables put up on the grid in California. And now California is concerned about keeping the lights on there. So they're actually looking for what the San Juan plant will provide, which is baseload power that's been decarbonized and is inexpensive. So we are very hopeful that we can sell our power as far as California.
But that's been a concern too, right? Because you don't have any power purchase agreements in place just yet, but it may be premature to do that.
It is premature. We're just starting that effort, and I'll say to my fellow ratepayers from the Farmington utility, this plant is rate regulated today, and after the transfer occurs from the 5 remaining owners to Hank's utility and Enchant, it'll be a merchant plant. So we'll have to wake up every morning and we'll have to sell our product. So there'll be no adverse effect on the ratepayers in the community of Northwest New Mexico.
Got it. But and surprisingly for California, because at one point they didn't want to touch the power coming from San Juan Generating, and now you're saying they may be coming back to the table and saying, well, let's take another look at this because it's made in a little different way.
Right. So as we said, don't focus on the black rocks that come in the front end. The back end is power that has been stripped already of, because of the $500 million that Hank and the other owners did, SOx, NOx, mercury, and particulates. And the fifth and final pollutant is CO2. We're going to strip Farmington Enchant 90%. So what Californians will get is very low emissions power that's very inexpensive, and as Hank said, most importantly, is baseload. It'll keep the lights on in our region, and if we ship it to California, help keep the lights on in California.
And as you both have said, cleaner than natural gas plants
That's
is
correct.
what has been said before. So interesting. I want to ask you both a little bit about timelines and time frames. Hank, as you mentioned, PNM has said that they are out here in 2022. That's just a couple of years from now. And so when that happens, that I guess triggers a bunch of other things to happen. And so I think ideally it'd be great to flip a switch and have it and go over to carbon capture right after that happens. But I know there might be a little bit of a transition. And how do you keep the jobs? How do you keep everything going? How do you keep your loads that you need for your customers during this time if you're not quite ready to go with carbon capture on day +1 after PNM says goodbye?
July 1 of 2022.
Is that the date? Okay.
Yeah. So what is the next steps? And I think the key point is this. I don't want to sugarcoat it. This is a huge project with a huge amount of undertaking and a massive capital investment. The good news is we're doing the feed study. Again, we have some of the top echelon in the utility industry working on this. So Mitsubishi, Kiewit, and Sargent Lundy are our two main firms. Sargent Lundy is the engineering firm. Mitsubishi is the people who do the carbon capture train itself. And Kiewit is one of the main constructors, one of the top 6 in the nation that construct equipment. So we have an A team that is working on this. So the feed study is to get the design, and the goal is to work with the ownership to begin construction on the plant once we have investment completed, actually in 2021, prior to 2022 when the plant retires. The good news is the location where it will be installed at the facility, it doesn't really have negative interaction with the operation of the plant. I call it construction friction. While you're trying to build something new, while you're trying to operate what you have. The benefit of also this design is its modularity I talked about previously, which allows you to fabricate and install and do the construction quickly. As it is, there will be a goal, so a gap, but in 2022 when we would transfer, the ownership would maintain where it's at as Genco, if you will, and we would continue to operate San Juan plant the way it currently is today. The difference is with the Energy Transition Act, which came into law, is San Juan plant needs to meet a goal of 1,100 pounds per net megawatt of CO2 January 1 of 2023. So our goal is to complete construction by the fourth quarter of 2023, and then we have that gap between January and the fourth quarter when we would have it installed. A lot of that, though, if you look at the 1,100, again, Peter has mentioned how low the pounds are. Right now, the plant runs about 2,200 pounds, and it'll be about 250 pounds post-construction. Again, 90% reduction, simple math there. So it's actually capable of meeting well beyond the 1,100. So we need to look at the permitting in that time frame. So continue operation as it is till 2023. Continue that into 2023 as we complete the construction to meet the limits as required by the ETA.
And that was a state law that was passed here in New Mexico, last year, I guess it was?
That's
right.
correct.
That's gone through its own trials and tribulations and things along that line. Peter Mandelstam, a lot of folks have said, though, that maybe the timeline is really compressed, and more accurate would be maybe 5 years out or 10 years out to make this transition, because it just seems like there's a lot of work to be done to switch this plant over.
Hank is correct. It is a large undertaking, but the good news is we have the A-team, as Hank said, and we're on a timeline that will meet that deadline. We're sensitive and we honor the Energy Transition Act, but as a public-private partnership, we take the best of both public and private entities. We're able to move quickly. Our team is working very hard, and I'm very pleased to say that even in this era of coronavirus and the turmoil on Wall Street, Hank and I have talked to all of our partners and vendors and consultants, and everyone has recommitted to the project. And so we do think that we can meet this timeline of starting construction on the carbon capture island, distinct from the existing plant, in the first quarter of 2021, and energizing the first of the so-called trains of carbon capture in the summer of 2023.
Okay, and that is important, I guess, to make sure all the dollars are still where you think they are, and committed to helping to pay for this project.
Absolutely. Both Hank and I
we're talking millions, tens of millions, aren't we?
Well, the construction cost alone is $1.3 billion, and we haven't seen all the details of the stimulus that's going to be voted perhaps even today in the House of Representatives, but I think everyone in our community in San Juan County, and specifically in Farmington, is sensitive to the issue of jobs and economic development, and we want to be good neighbors, Hank and I, and we want to, as much as possible, provide the economic development, maintain those 1,500 jobs, the $53 million in state and local taxes, and bring new jobs. We think that carbon capture works not only in San Juan County, but elsewhere in the western U.S., and we hope that San Juan, and particularly San Juan College, where we're sitting today, and I'll tell the listeners that Hank and Scott and I are being socially responsible, and we're distancing ourselves within the studio.
I was going to mention that, yeah, you mentioned that a couple of times. I want the listeners and viewers to know that we are very much in separate corners of the studio this morning, all of us, yes.
Right. We hope to work with San Juan College and do the job training for these new skills, and we think that the folks trained here in San Juan County can fan out across the western U.S. and be the sort of next wave of workers. I saw that in the solar industry. I saw that in the wind industry, on land and offshore. And we think, Hank and I, that carbon capture is the next wave in the energy field, and we can provide a lot of good jobs, and folks can do the San Juan and the carbon capture island and then work elsewhere in the western U.S.
I see. Now, let me ask you a bit, too. You mentioned earlier, Mr. Mandelstam, that this is a transition energy source as we move towards renewables, and you worked in renewables for earlier in your career. So if we go through all of this and get this plant up and running, and it's now producing energy and carbon capture is working, what's the lifespan of the plant at that point? How much more time do we have?
So my son is a junior in college. He's unfortunately having to distance learn, but Hank and I care deeply about the next generation, and this plant will run at least until 2035. And what we've said publicly, and what we, of course, fervently hope, is that by 2035, the Elon Musks of the United States or someone else will come up with utility-scale storage. One of the reasons we're doing this facility is there is currently in the U.S. no other way except for, as Hank mentioned, the hydro and then the nukes. And of course, the nukes are going to age out and close. There's no utility-scale storage solution. And so San Juan with carbon capture is a transitional technology to a day, we hope, before 2035, when someone invents utility-scale storage. Hank and I have been in the energy business for decades. Battery chemistry is a very tough thing, hard to defy the laws of physics, but someone somewhere will come up with a technology, and we all agree that we want to protect our children and grandchildren, and we want a technology that is cost-effective and that is at utility scale and reliable to back up renewables, and right now that doesn't exist, and that's why San Juan with carbon capture is so important.
Gotcha. And Hank Adair, from the utilities point of view, I mean, again, if you gain another decade or so with this plant, you're still going to be faced with the same problem of loss of jobs and tax base and things like that if the plant does eventually have to close.
That's true, and we've looked at it, and everything is a time frame. Even if we can buy that additional from 2022 to 2035, that additional 13 years, that gets us a lot of time for everything else to come into play. with the wisdom of our mayor, city manager, and council, we're looking at diversifying our economy in the region as well. And really, for us, it right fits for our utility and our customers based on rates. People are concerned, are you doing this, and is it going to put a lot of risk on the utility, or is it going to raise our rates? Again, as I've mentioned, we are in San Juan plant today, and our rates are the lowest in the region. With the agreement that we've worked with Enchant, we are only retaining 5% of the ownership of the generation asset. So we're right where we were to begin with, and all the liabilities and benefits that come with it. Also, in that agreement between Enchant and Farmington, we came to an agreement to lower our rates 20% from what they were over the last 5 years. So actually, our cost of energy that we will get as a benefit to the utility will be directly passed on to our customers. So that's a huge benefit to our customers, independent of the tax base, the jobs, and the community proper. So that is big for us.
Now, does that mean Peter's bill is going to go down 20%? Is that what that means?
His bill will go down, not totally 20%, because
Okay.
again, that's only 24% of our total generation, but it'll definitely be a benefit. And that passes on to our community, and that passes on to our economic development. When you're wanting to look at manufacturing and things like that, that's key. So as we don't have rail, or we're basically trucking for manufacturing, anything we can do to shave off that overhead for people coming in, the better off we'll be. So it's a huge benefit. So there's no more risk. We're right where we were. I can tell you we have the option to get into carbon capture co and to invest as a city and a utility, and I look to the mayor and our council to give us direction and wisdom on that as we go forward.
But that's not a part of this deal at the moment. It's an option down the road. Is that what you're saying?
It's an option now that
Now.
we would evaluate.
I see.
That we could do at any given time during the time frame we're doing investment. Again, we're where we're at today, and actually a little better off, as I say, and it's a benefit to our customers long term. I'll say also, we want to reap the reward. We're a conservative utility, and we have no debt on the books, if you will. We have fully invested into San Juan, and we have $30 million of undepreciated capital in San Juan. We've paid for that asset. Let's run it. Let's not throw those dollars away that our customers have paid for. Also, if San Juan goes away, we're expecting we'll need to build a combined cycle plant, which is nearly $100 million to replace it. We expect that would raise our rates by about 5%. So
That would be a natural gas plant to replace the power you are getting now from the coal at San Juan.
That's correct. And we estimate that from our integrated resource plan to be almost 5% increase to our customers. So it's a win on the top and the downside is if we can keep San Juan continuing.
Gotcha. Peter Mandelstam?
And again, to amplify what Hank said, I give the credit to Mayor Nate Duckett, to the City Council, and to the Farmington Utility. They realized that there was an asset here, San Juan, where they could continue to run it yet decarbonize it and bring the federal dollars to the community. So we in this public-private partnership, we at Enchant, are thrilled to work with the mayor and work with Hank and the City Council. This really is a very far-sighted approach. They realize that they need to keep rates low, they need to worry about climate change, and of course, particularly in the coronavirus era, we need to think about jobs and economic development. We at Enchant are happy to partner with them to use the private sector efficiency along with the public sector accountability and bring those federal dollars into the community.
Got it. Interesting. Thank you. And Hank and Eric, we have just a couple of minutes remaining. I wanted to ask you, and the mayor's already chastised about me asking this question of him, but I want to ask you too. Would it be in anyone's benefit for the Farmington Electric Utility to develop some type of a renewable field and renewable source of power that customers who wanted to pay more could opt to buy their power from that source? And right now we don't have that. We have, as you've mentioned, natural gas and coal and some hydro. But would it make any sense at all to have some kind of demonstration project for customers of the Farmington Electric Utility? And if they wanted to say, I'm only buying my power from a solar field and I'm paying twice as much as you guys, but that's my political and social stand.
We actually have that now. We have a rate specific to FEUS that you can choose to have 100% renewable within our rate. So any one of our customers that would like to sign up for that, they can. So we actually have that opportunity today.
Well, then I feel silly for not knowing that, but thank you for correcting me.
We do, but that's not directly related to our assets. We actually use...
You would buy that? Is that where it comes from?
Correct. Right now, we actually have enough, what I would say, behind-the-meter generation that covers our people that are signed up for it today. if more and more people get interested, I'll either buy renewable generation to cover what they would be interested in, because we have that rate that they can subscribe to, or build it ourselves. Frankly, we looked at it a year and a half ago, and we were going to build a community solar project, and the pricing was so high that it did not reach where our customers would match up to.
And what's the difference in rates? Is there a difference in rates if someone chooses to do that?
It depends on what you build it for. So our rate right now is very close, actually, to what our build is. So if you are not on it and renewables, it's very close. Again, understand that you have to have backup to your renewables to meet that, so that brings the price up. It's slightly higher currently today than what our normal rate is. But as more people subscribe and price of renewables go down, and again, remember the 100% of the day and the balance out of that renewable plan that you need to have, that could balance out.
So you're talking about folks that have it installed at their homes and selling it back to you, any excess power they don't have. Is that the idea?
Correct. With the amount of subscription we have on that rate I'm discussing, we have enough over generation from our current people that have it on their rooftops, etc., and our purchases to cover what we have for subscription to that plan.
So if I don't have the panels on my roof but wanted to buy it, I could. There's enough excess, is what you're saying. I could do that.
Correct. And if more people subscribe to it, or more of our customers subscribe, then I'll go out to the market to buy that specific resource.
Right, Peter?
And so, Scott, it was quite a surreal experience, because Hank is my partner and my utility provider. When I had the first meeting at his offices, I dropped off my utility subscription form, and I asked Hank if I could have 100% renewables, and Hank said yes. And so, in fact, I am a 100% renewables customer for the Farmington utility. His people signed me up, and I'm happy to pay whatever the rate is, and I think it's the right thing to do. I don't have panels on my home, but as Hank said, I'm getting them from elsewhere, and so Hank is providing me 100% renewables.
Interesting. I learned something new on this program as well this morning, gentlemen, so thank you for that. Very good. I'm afraid we are out of time, though. I know, Hank Adair, if folks still have questions about this, the website, utility has a website, of course.
We do have a website, and we have Facebook. Reach out to me in any forum, ask any question, and I'll make sure I respond. I've always had an open door, and feel free to call me. That's the luxury of being a small-town utility.
There you go. And would you please pass along to your crews? We appreciate, I know when there's a power outage, everybody wants it back on yesterday, so I know they're out there and they work as quickly as they can in all different types of weather, so please extend our thanks to them.
Doing a great job for us, and I appreciate it. I will pass that on.
Very good. Peter Mastem, again, if folks have questions about Enchant, you mentioned your website, and you have a lot of these reports that talk about the feasibility of what we're talking about here.
Yes, please go to enchantenergy.com, leave a comment, send an email to me. Hank and I believe in a very open and transparent process, and so as this public-private partnership, we want folks to engage with us. Hank and I do this tag team elsewhere, and we appreciate having the opportunity, Scott, to be on your show, but please, folks, contact us on either of our websites.
Well, and as this all moves forward, it's such a complex project for a lot of us that hopefully you both will come back and keep us updated.
Absolutely welcome it.
Of course.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Stay safe, stay well. My guest here from the City of Farmington Electric Utility and Enchant Energy with me today on KSJE.
I'm Tracy K. Smith, and this is The Slowdown. Okay, so what are you going to do next time you get upset? I ask my son. I'm going to use my words. And what else can you do? I can breathe. Should you hit your brother or sister even if they make you really mad? No. And I believe him. I believe he believes he's telling me the truth. I believe he believes he has and will use alternatives to these other strategies. But 20 minutes later, we're right back here having this same dialogue. A dialogue during which, I might add, I once again believe my son is telling me the truth. At least he thinks he is. It's frustrating because he knows better. But look at me. Look at everyone. Knowing better isn't always enough to keep from making certain mistakes. The just one more cookie mistake. The I'll wake up early and take care of this mistake. The no need to write it down mistake. Knowing better isn't always enough of a safeguard. It's possible my son is simply telling me what I want to hear. I don't like that option, but it's possible. And it surely describes the way people sometimes operate. I did as much as a teenager, not wanting to disappoint my mother. I suppose the things we know we ought to do don't always take priority over the things we wish or even need to do. Today's poem is